Greetings, brothers and sisters of the Secular Order of the Disc House Carmelites. This is video number 80 in this series that we're doing on the identity and the function and the role of a secular order member in the order and in the church. We're looking at the constitutions, and today we will look at, in this 80th video, we will look at numbers 39 and 40. 39 says, all of Christ's faithful have the right to make vows. Repeat that. All of Christ's faithful have the right to make vows. With the consent of the council of the community and the permission of the provincial, a member of the secular order may make vows of obedience and chastity in the presence of the community. These vows are strictly personal and do not create a separate category of membership. They suppose a greater commitment of fidelity to the evangelical life, but do not transform those who make them into juridically recognized consecrated people as in institutes of the consecrated life. Those who make vows in the secular order continue to be laypersons in all juridical effects. What makes you a member of the order, what makes you a member of the secular order, is the promise that you make. That's what juridically makes you a member of the secular order. Vows, which are permitted, they're permitted because anybody in the church can make a vow, but we permit them in the secular, in the context of the secular order, because you are a secular order member. You're a member. And as a member of the church, as a member of the order, you are permitted to make vows. They are personal. They do not create a separate juridical person or a separate legal identity or a separate category of membership in the secular order. All of the members of the secular order have in common, and what all the members of the secular order share as the point of their identity is the promise that they make to the community that they belong to. Vows, personal, remain with the person who makes them because they are personal. If a person decides no longer to be a secular order member and wishes to remove themselves from the secular order, they do not need a dispensation from the vows because the vows are personal. What they need is permission from the community who received their promise to dispense them from the promise, confirmed by the provincial. But the vows, so a person makes the commitment of the promise, then after a couple of years in formation, in ongoing formation, decides to make a vow of chastity or the vow of obedience, and they make the vow. Then something happens and they decide to withdraw from the secular order. They do not need to be dispensed from the vows because the vows do not constitute a part of the identity as a secular order member. They made them as members of the secular order, but it didn't make them members of the secular order. So if they no longer wish to be part of the secular order, they still have the obligation of vows. They can be, if they want to be dispensed from the vow, that's a separate question. But a person who makes the promise becomes a member of the secular order. To no longer be a member of the secular order is to get a dispensation from your promise. To be a Catholic and to be a vowed person as a Catholic is completely different than being a member of the secular order. You can be a member of the secular order with vows, but it's not a separate category of identity. It's a personal commitment to follow Jesus more closely by living the vows, the evangelical counsel of either obedience or chastity. So in order to follow Jesus more closely as a Catholic person, as a Catholic Carmelite person. Originally, for some time, all secular order members made vows, but there was never an understanding that they became members of the religious order. Members of the order, you are members of the order as lay people, not as religious people. The category of the public vows are made by religious. Public vows. They're recognized by the church, and you're recognized as a consecrated person, as a member of the consecrated life, as a member of a religious institute, a religious order, religious family, living the common life, not just community life, living the common life, bound by the obligations of chastity, and under the immediate obedience to the a local superior, and then ultimately to the provincial superior and the superior of the order. They're religious consecrated people who make public vows. When we were writing the constitutions, I went to the Holy See. I went to the Sacred Congregation to meet with the Father Torres, CMF father, who was Soto Secretario, who was the sub-secretary of the congregation, and a canon lawyer, to make sure we were clear about what we were saying about the promises, the legal consequences of the promises, and what the category of vows were. In the old Code of Canon Law, there were many types of different types and different categories of vows. In the new Code of Canon Law, this is much more simple. Vows are either public or private. Public vows are made by members of religious congregations, religious orders, religious societies, religious institutes. And they bind the person legally. They bind the person legally to follow certain characteristics and lifestyle. The most fundamental is the common life in common. Private vows do not bind people to live in an identifiable lifestyle that is marked by the common life. So you can make vows, certainly can make vows. And it's a good, it's an honorable thing to make vows, but it's strictly personal. I don't suppose there are too many people in the secular order now who made, or at least not a greater majority. In 1974, when the rule of life came into effect after the Second Vatican Council and after the changes of the Second Vatican Council, there was a committee of friars that wrote the rule of life. The majority of people, all of the people who belonged to the secular order before the rule of life, followed what was called the Manual of 1922, and in the Manual of 1922, there was the responsibility for making vows as a member of the secular order. The rule of life introduced the promise in place of the vows. The constitutions still recognize the place of the promise in identifying the concrete way in which a person becomes a member of the secular order. But it also, as you can read very clearly in Article 39, it also recognizes the right of persons to make vows. But it's important to understand that what makes you a secular order member is the promise. The promise of poverty, chastity, obedience, the promise to strive to live a lifestyle that is characterized by the evangelical virtues of poverty, chastity, obedience, and to live the spirit of the Beatitudes in the world. This is what consecrates you. This is what you dedicate yourself to do as a member of the secular order. And it's what makes you a member of the secular order. Number 40. The secular order is basically structured on the local community as a visible sign of the church. At the provincial level and in the local communities, the secular order enjoys juridical personality. The secular order is basically structured on the local community. The friars are basically structured on a provincial structure. It's the province, and which I can be changed by my. I live in what's called a commissariat, but the commissar can change me to another monastery. The nuns live a monastic life, so they're bound to the monastery that they live in, unless they make another foundation or for some reason they transfer to another foundation in order to help another foundation. But the basic structure of the secular order is the local community, the community that you join. So you make your promise to the local community. You are interwoven into the fabric of a community of persons, of lay persons like yourself, with the welcome participation of diocesan priests, as we already explained. You're not committing yourselves to the fathers, or the friars, and you're not committing yourselves to the nuns. Even if you meet in the monastery of nuns or you meet in a monastery of friars, you're committing yourselves to each other. That's the basic structure of the most fundamental structure of the Discalced Carmelite secular order identity. It's the people to whom you commit yourselves. You can be inspired, directed, you can love the friars, you can love the nuns, but that's not your commitment. Your commitment is to the people that you live with. At the provincial, now this sentence needs some explanation. At the provincial level and in the local communities, the secular order enjoys juridical personality. What does juridical personality mean? It's a legal term in the Code of Canon Law. Juridical personality fundamentally means that you have the right to have your own finances. You have the right to own property in the name of the community. There are some places where the community, the secular order community, has property. There are some communities in the Philippines, in Spain, there's some communities where the secular order community has a retreat house. The secular order, not the friars, not the nuns, it's a house built by the secular order members. There are some communities where the secular order has a house for elderly secular order members to live in together. And the community maintains the house. You can do these things because of juridical personality. The province, if there are provincial statutes, because in order to have juridical personality, you have to have some sort of statute that guides you. All of the communities that follow the constitutions, that follow these constitutions approved by the Vatican under Pope John Paul II in 2003. All the communities that follow these constitutions have juridical personality. If you don't follow these constitutions, but you follow some other rule, you still follow the rule of life, you don't have juridical personality, because it's no longer the binding law of the order. So if you follow, this is again another point that I clarified with the Holy See, because there were some people who were opposed to the idea of juridical personality. Juridical personality gives you some autonomy, some independence. You have the right to manage your own finances, so that the dues that you collect and the projects that you back and you get involved in, you commit yourselves to as a community, have some arms and legs in which to move. If you collect dues, you have the right to your own treasury. So the consequences of juridical personality are that you have some autonomy, you have some independence. Nobody in the church is completely independent. We will see more about this as we go to the next number next week. So that there is still the necessity of relationship, and relationship that is dependent. But there's also, at the same time, while there is some dependence, there is also some independence. And that is the proper use of the word autonomy. There's guidelines for finances. Everybody who manages money in the church must be answerable to somebody else who's outside the structure. Everybody who manages money, because there must be transparency, there must be honesty, there must be correct accounting, entrance into a journal, reporting to a higher superior, supervision in the management of money. So the community has the right to money. The provincial council has the right, the provincial council of the OCDS has the right to supervise, not control, not interfere with the management of the money, but to inspect. Or the provincial structure, the provincial of the province, or the major superior of the province, has the right to have a report on the amount of money that the secular order communities have. And it's not a matter so that they can take the money, because they cannot take the money. They can ask you to make a donation or whatever like that. There's a difference between being so autonomous that you do not owe anybody an explanation, and being correctly autonomous where you are transparent. So juridical personality is an important concept for the independence, the proper independence, the proper functioning of the secular order. So these two things, these 39 and 40, just simple ideas. Vows that used to be required now are not the medium, not the means in which membership is established in the secular order. The promise, since 1974, well before the constitutions, under Pope John Paul, 1974 was under Pope Paul VI, after the Second Vatican Council, when the rule of life was approved. Then John Paul II, when the constitutions were approved, have established now for almost 50 years that the means of identification and membership, the means of membership is found in the promise made to the local community. And that local community is the basic structure that identifies a person as a member of the secular order, a commitment to a community of persons. That community of persons that you commit yourselves to has a legal identity in the church. And so that either in the community or on the provincial level, on the level of the province, the structure of the secular order is able to function in terms of formation, able to function in terms of apostolate activity. Independence and autonomy are values, not absolutes. What is absolute is poverty, chastity, and obedience, and the Beatitudes. That's absolute. Independence, valuable. Autonomy, valuable, but not absolute. We collaborate, cooperate in obedience, in poverty, in chastity, and in living the spirit of the Beatitudes. I hope that these ideas are clear, and that you understand how this helps the secular order to function, how it helps the secular order members to relate to each other in what it is that we're doing as a community. There's always the question of what am I doing as an individual, but there's also and always the question of what are we doing as a community. In order for the community to do, it needs a certain amount of independence. But it also needs a certain amount of commitment. So the commitment is made to the community. Because of the commitment that is made to the community is also able to function independently. It is able to guide itself in making decisions under and in collaboration with the whole structure of the order. We're part of an order. It's not when you join a community of the secular order, it's not some individual unique structure that involves only this group of people. You're joining the order. I'm in Indonesia. I'm not in the Indonesia. I'm in Indonesia. I'm a Discalced Carmelite in Indonesia. But I'm not an Indonesian Carmelite. You're a member of the community. You participate in that community. You commit yourself to that community. And through the participation and commitment to that community, you then are able to function in service of the church. I hope these ideas I hope I've been able to explain something about vows and something about juridical personality, because they're the two ideas that are here. They're the two numbers they're the two ideas that are addressed by these numbers, number 39 and number 40. If there's any question, please ask the question, or any need for clarification, please don't give me a lecture, but ask a question. And if I can answer publicly or privately, I will do so as best as I can. Thank you for your attention, and see you next time. God bless you. Don't forget to subscribe and to hit the alarm button, the notification button, so that you can be notified of future videos. God bless you. Thank you.